Andy Ruiz says he's currently negotiating with Team Anthony Joshua for the rematch. And you won't believe where he says it may end up. What up, Fight World? It's your boy, Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. Let's jump into it. Andy Ruiz, he is the man of the hour, unified champion, shook up the world, shook up the heavyweight division, and he's living his best life right now. Andy Ruiz has done several interviews. He's being sought out by a ton of media, getting a type of exposure that he hasn't previously received in his career. Like when he was undefeated before he fought Joseph Parker, I didn't see this many cameras and mics in his face, and always looking at his next move, or his videos getting the most views when people did interview him. But that has all changed, and that's what we love about boxing. Now he's done several interviews and he's talked about the rematch. He said he's currently talking to Joshua's people, and he said that he's really pushing, him and his team are pushing for the fight to happen in Mexico. Wow. He said AZTECA Stadium. Now, AZTECA Stadium holds like 100,000 people and is lit. That would be historic. There's never been a Mexican heavyweight champion in the history of the world. So I would have to believe if it does take place in Mexico, it's going to set records. You look at Canelo, and Andy Ruiz, I did a video about it. Andy Ruiz said he wants to be like Canelo, if not bigger, and he wants to give back to the community, give back to his heritage, and just give back to people in the world of boxing. Really humble guy, and it's easy to get behind what Andy Ruiz has done and what he continues to do just by being a good person. Just looking at the jolly and the joy on his face, seeing him on Jimmy Kimmel, is something to be marveled at. But listen, if this fight happens in Mexico, there were rumors that Anthony Joshua had a panic attack in New York. Andy Ruiz is not even from New York. That's what I'm under. Like, this is the thing. There's a lot of people from the UK, and they may have YouTube channels, be UK writers, or, just UK fans. And I was seeing a lot of commentary about DAZN is great, and they don't even have access to DAZN app. And new media, I talked about these things. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. How can you tell Americans to get behind the DAZN app and purchase it, and how great of a deal it is, and you can't even download it in the app store? So we heard certain things from the UK, and it came with Joshua, with Eddie Hearn constantly being in the video and doing all these interviews and stuff like that. It was a lot of banter about Wilder, Joshua, who deserved what split. Andy Ruiz is kind of focused on what we would expect from a champion more. So is Deontay Wilder, making good fights, legacy, making money. Of course these guys want to make money, but setting history, giving back to the community, and it's a different feel than when Joshua had all the belts. So Eddie Hearn really messed up picking Andy Ruiz late terms and putting his fighter in there in a fight that he could lose, because he lost it. And there were so many vulnerabilities and flaws shown with Anthony Joshua. It's going to be hard in the rematch. Even if somehow he beats Andy Ruiz in the rematch, people feel different things, like, oh, he had a panic attack, oh, his chin is suspect, oh, he doesn't have the heart to continue. Wilder and Tyson Fury both in separate interviews have said they believe that Joshua would quit, and mentally he's not the strongest. I've said the same thing. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Joshua. And if there's any truth to him getting hurt in sparring, him feeling the pressure, him having an anxiety attack before the fight in New York, then if it happens in Mexico, all those things will be, tenfold, because that's a whole different crowd. And this will be that'll be a raucous crowd. Like, that's a historic moment for Mexico and the Mexican fighter lineage to have a heavyweight champion. This is like when John Ruiz became the first Puerto Rican, but bigger, because now you have social media, and we know how much of a fan base the Mexican American, Latino, Hispanic population, how great it is and how supportive they are in boxing. So, if he had panic attacks, then Eddie Hearn, I hope I hope for their sake they wrote certain clauses that excluded the rematch from taking place in certain places. But if Al Heyman gets this fight and Andy Ruiz gets this fight in Mexico, then I don't know what Joshua is going to be going through in terms of nerves and anxiety, because that's just a whole different market, a whole different crowd. And he's really going to feel like, you know, the outsider coming into that big ass venue. And that'll be comparable. You know, that would be like the Wembley of Mexico. You know, he's used to fighting in stadiums, but in Madison Square Garden, it was just a different feel. How can Joshua fight in front of 70, 80,000 people in Principality Stadium and Wembley and places like that, but get before a crowd of 16,000, 15,000 or whatever at MSG and put on that performance, the worst performance of his professional career, because it's different. And I try to tell people from the UK that were leaving these crazy comments and stuff, it's different in America. You can have experience, you know, but it's different. You know, I look at boxing and I give you guys as many analogies as I can. It's like Marcos Maidana clearly has power, right? In Argentina, if you look early in his career, when he was relegated to fighting mostly where he's from in Argentina, he knocked all those guys out. But when he started facing Broners from Cincinnati, you know, Eric Morales from Mexico, he started fighting different fighters. Floyd Mayweather, he couldn't knock out all those guys. Yes, he could hurt them because power is power is power. But it's not, you're not knocking them all out like you did back at home. So it is different when you up the competition. You're in front of different crowds. And I think Joshua was kind of reliant on comfort zones. That's why he always said, I don't want to fight outside of the UK. He turned up $50 million, turned that down after he asked for it to not fight Wilder in the US, and gave up some bogus reasons because the referee, judges, and he built this in the UK, so why should he have to travel? You know, and those weren't like champion-like behaviors, because the people like Sergey Kovalev, Amir Khan, Manny Pacquiao, you know, these different people, they all traveled, Gennady Golovkin, and Joshua kind of had this stuck-up attitude. But now it's going to come down to the battle of the pins. In a fight that you didn't expect to lose, how well did your team prepare that contract, especially under late terms, not having a full 10 weeks? Did they really get deep down and thorough? Because it's very clear that they failed at one of the 7 reasons on my video, underestimation. They underestimated Andy Ruiz. So it's going to be the battle of the pins. You know, how well did they cover their tracks in the event that Joshua would lose when they didn't expect him to lose? Can't wait to see what happens. But again, if this fight goes into Mexico, I'm already favoring Andy Ruiz. If it happens in Mexico or even the US, but definitely in Mexico, I'm definitely favoring Andy Ruiz, because I do think there's some truth to the anxiety and panic attack. We didn't see no videos of Anthony Joshua really warming up and getting the war tape and the hands wrapped. That's pretty customary on big fights. You see, they'll send a Brian Kinney or Jim Gray to the back to talk to the fighter. No one knew what was going on with Joshua. And then when he finally walks out, it looks delayed. Everybody looks solemn and statuesque. It looked like they seen a ghost. It looked like something happened. You know, everyone has this solemn face, like Eddie Hearn, his whole team. Joshua's looking all crazy and beady-eyed and wide-eyed and looking spooked. So I can't imagine if something did, they're not going to, of course, because they don't want to make Joshua look weak-minded. So they're not going to cop to it. But it physically, you know, to the people looking, there's even people on Sky Sports reviewing the tape, like Dave Caldwell, you know, and he's giving his assessment. So people like Tyson Fury, he said the same thing. It looked like Joshua didn't want to be there, you know. So I know I'm not paranoid. It looked like he didn't want to be there. It looked like he was mentally like overwhelmed. So ultimately, you can lie to the public. You could try to cover it up to the public. But if you have nerves and things that are internal, you can't lie to yourself. If you were going through it, you're going to remember that. If you had got knocked down in camp, you're going to remember that. No matter what you tell the public, that's going to be shown. And I think overall, Joshua probably didn't have a great camp, and his preparations weren't what they needed to be. He underestimated this guy. So when the going got tough, he wasn't prepared for that type of onslaught. He wasn't prepared for someone who was going to fight back like Ruiz did. So now that the cat's out the bag, this is going to be very crucial for Joshua. And if it happens in Mexico, man, oh man, there's going to be even more pressure. Let me know what you guys think. If this fight happens in Mexico, any of my fans from Mexico, let me know if you've been to the AZTECA Stadium. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We definitely working. Peace. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.